Hello everyone, it's great to see every one of you. Thanks so much for being here this evening. I would also like to thank Buster for putting this event together and having me here. It's great to see every one of you. I was looking forward to coming here and having the opportunity to share with you for a while now. Many of you already know who I am because you see me.
I don't know you.
Okay, everybody except for my mom.
I have no idea who you are.
That's kind of weird, right? But most of you know who I am because you see me at many of the events that you do because I get to do them with my team. But there might be some of you out there that don't know that much about me or who I am or what I do. And you might be thinking of me in my chair right now. And you might be thinking, well, I see that John uses electric chair to get around for mobility. How in the world does someone like John get involved in this community? And I can see, honestly, I can see why you would be wondering that, because that's a great question. That's due to something I like to call find another way, and many of you have those shirts on right now, so thank you for all your support. But I was born at 10 weeks prematurely with something called cerebral palsy. And for those of you who don't know, cerebral palsy is a type of brain injury that can occur oftentimes in premature birth or some other kind of trauma to the brain. But depending on how severely and where the brain is affected, is depending on how severe the case of cerebral palsy is. Sometimes you can have a very mild case of cerebral palsy to the point where you might just have weakness on one side of your body, but you might still be able to walk with a different gait, or it could be very severe with a lot of extra stuff that goes along with it, or it can be like my case and fall somewhere in the middle. I was diagnosed as what's called a spastic quadriplegic, and all that means is I have very high muscle tone all through my legs and arms. My legs are more affected than anything else. That's why I can't walk. When I was younger, I've had years of therapy and several surgeries in an effort to make my symptoms more manageable and to make me more comfortable. But I'm still not able to walk. So that's why I'm in a chair. And one thing every one of you may not think about is our tongue is a muscle right in the middle of our mouth. And my cerebral palsy affects the way I speak sometimes. So I cannot control that. So I appreciate your patience and your understanding as I continue to share with you. And if you ever don't understand anything I say, just do what everybody else does and say, "What'd you say? Repeat that again." There's no way I understood that. And that's okay. I'll repeat it again. But you know what? Even though I need a lot of help with a lot of stuff, I tried all my life not to let it define who I am or what I'm about or whether or not I can accomplish my goals or dreams or not. Because when I was just 6 years old, I began to experience a whole new level of independence and freedom. Because you see, for the first time, I actually got to drive myself where I wanted to go and go look at the things I wanted to look at or say hi to whoever I wanted to. And I began to have freedom of mobility because my chair is my legs. So I took my chair to school, out in the community. I took it everywhere. And, as I continue to grow, I'm very lucky to have a mom that supported me and encouraged me in my adventurous spirit. And she let me try all kinds of things I wanted to try and do whatever I wanted to do, even if I had to do what I call find another way. She was always very supportive of that. And as I continued to go through school, I stayed very active. When I got in school, I joined many clubs. I was an honorary member of the football team and the basketball team. I went to all the games, even the away games. Believe it or not, I even went to school dances. I loved to dance. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I still like to dance, by the way. But I'm very lucky that I had a lot of friends right from the beginning in school, and I'm still friends with many of those people today. But when it came time for me to graduate, I decided very early on that I just didn't want to sit home, that I wanted to find something I was interested in and study it, because I wanted to have a career. So even though I knew I would have challenges with that because of my disability, because I also had something called dyslexia, which means when I try to read something, my brain doesn't process the words, so I can't read. Now, over the many years of my life, I've learned how to spell different words and stuff like that. But God has blessed me with incredible memorization. When I had to do it, a paper in school, I had to do it all from memory. When I had to take a test, the way I had to take it, I had to go out of the room and tell the teacher what to write down. And they wrote down exactly what I said. And I graduated high school with a 4.0. But anyway, that's to give you some background. So I knew that me going to college was going to be interesting. And my mom, bless her heart, she spent many late nights with me dictating papers, and I told her what to write, and she wrote it down. I always tell her, you should have got your degree right alongside me because I couldn't have done it without the help and support I have had all around me. And I went to school every day on campus. I didn't go do no online classes. So I was there every day. And I graduated years later with a degree in human services and applied sciences. And now I use it in my speaking and to coach people. But I, even while I was going through school, I remained active. I remained involved in several activities. I love to work out because even though I'm in a chair, I think it's important to stay as physically active as you can. And I believe what keeps me able to do the things I'm able to do is being able to stay in good shape as I can. So I love to work out, and I play adaptive sports at a competitive level. So I've always left myself open for new adventures, new opportunities, and trying new things. And so in January, I got the opportunity to do something I never thought I would be able to do because of my disability. Something I had only heard of. I had heard of a father-son team named Rick and Decoy that had done well over 1,000 events together, including several triathlons and even Ironmans, but the father pushed his son. And so I heard about an organization called Ainsley Angels that was right here in Tulsa. I didn't think it was possible for me to do it because I didn't know anybody else besides them at that time that was doing this. Okay, most of you who are out there know what Ainsley Angels is, but Ainsley Angels is an organization that focuses on education and inclusion through the sport of running and biking. It was now there are chapters all over the United States. It was founded by a man named Kim Rossiter, who founded it with his family in honor of his daughter, Ainsley, who had a disability. They began to get a chair for her and push her around outside, and eventually they did several events with her. And when she passed away in 2016, he started the organization that we now know is Ainsley Angels because he wanted to give other individuals with different disabilities the chance to experience what it was like to participate in an event like that. So what Ainsley Angels does is they pair physically challenged people like myself that would not be able to complete an event like that on their own. And they find people that like to run or bike, and they're willing to use their time, their energy, and all their effort to help you experience the closest thing you can to what it's like to be in that event. It's a real gift. It's a real blessing that there's people out there that want to help us do that. So Robbie is the only rider I see, but I would like to say thank you on behalf of myself and all the riders that benefit from all you guys helping us, because without you guys' support, none of this would be possible. And I would also like to thank the biking and running community at large, because you welcomed us in with open arms. So I've done more 5Ks than I can count now. At this time, a lot of those I done with my good friend Johnny Williams, who's right back there. Thank you for giving me your legs all the time, brother. So anyway, I've done more 5Ks than I can count. And I always tell people, thank you for giving me your legs. And some people, when they hear me say that, they're like, what does he mean by that? I mean, if they didn't do that for me, I wouldn't have that opportunity to experience what it's like. So that's what I mean. And we're a team. And so I've done many 5K, more than I can count at this point. I've also done distances all the way up to triathlons. But in March of 2019, I did something really crazy that changed my life. Thanks to my good friend, Micah Bevins, who's back here somewhere. And Kathy Bratton, I got to do my first prairie sprint all through 100 in Ottawa, Kansas. Now, it was a very difficult and challenging race for all of us for many different reasons. Because you see, 3 or 4 days before the event, it rained like I had never seen rain before in my life. And it made the course an absolute mess, to the point where only for a second though, we're like, should we do this? And then we decided, go big or go home. And it rained on us all that day, all that night. And it got down to 18 degrees overnight. And my team said it was like pushing my chair through wet sand. And the reason why is because it wouldn't get no traction. And the only time it got enough traction is when it got cold enough to freeze the ground over. But by that time, we were all freezing. But Micah was out there with me the entire time. And Kathy was out there most of us. And then we had our good friends, Justin Walker and Dave Box. They came in and pushed 25 miles each to give Micah and Kathy a break. But we were each other's why. They wanted to help me finish so I could have that experience. I wasn't gonna quit because they were working so hard. Someone asked my mom at some point, do you think John's okay? And she said, yes, he's fine, but he will have body parts fall off before he will quit. Because one thing, this is just my personal belief, one of my personal beliefs in life. If you want to accomplish something, you have to know you can do it and know you will do it. And don't give yourself the option to quit. Ooh. That's right, Robbie. Don't give yourself the option to quit, because if you give yourself the option to quit, you will. And so I had already decided, unless my team had to quit, because it was detrimental to them, that I wasn't going to quit. And so we actually made a little history, because we were the first team of our kind to ever complete any type of race on that course, much less 100 miles. We finished that race in 27 hours and 5 minutes, I believe. That's pretty incredible. But again, I say I couldn't do that without the support of the people around me. Now, much like the people in here who have run a race, you know, you have to manage your hydration, your nutrition, and your restrooming. Well, all that is true for me, but I have to do it from my chair, because it takes too long to get out and back in. So anytime I do those events, I'm in my chair for 28, up to 28 hours at a time, depending on what the conditions are and depending on the course and everything. But I love pushing myself physically and mentally and seeing what's possible. And I would not have that door open to me if it weren't for Michael texting me one day and say, "You want to do something crazy with me?" And anybody who knows me, my first response is always going to be yes. and then I'll ask you, what is it you want to do? And so we finished that together, and now that is a measuring stick that I use for all my other events like that. I say to myself, is it going to snow on me? Is it going to rain on me? Am I going to freeze overnight? Nah, I don't think so. I got this, let's do it. And so I've gone on to do 5 separate 100-mile races now. And I don't think I'm done yet. Coming up real soon, I think I'm going to go for number 6 in the Tulsa Urban Adventure 100. And for that, I have different teams of people that will push different half loop or loop. And so I get it all done with their help. But I've also gone on to do triathlons. Many of you might know what those are. They consist of swimming, biking, and running. So I've done several triathlons at this point and marathons, but I've also done 5 Tulsa South. And coming up next month, this will be my 3rd blazing saddle. I'm really looking forward to that. And how that works is they take the front wheel off my chair and they pull me behind the bike. Now, I do have my own chair called the Blade that I use for running events. I love it. My team loves it because it's light and fast. And a side note is we don't have no brakes. But when I do the biking events, I borrow Ainsley Angel's chapter chair because I found out the hard way that it has a high center of gravity and it's not so good behind behind the bike. And as Buster alluded to, my first year, we were going around the corner at a pretty high rate of speed, and I flipped over, and I got road rash. But everybody has road rash at some point, right? So I'm just part of the club.
Yeah.
But that is why I no longer use my blade behind the bike, because after that happened one time, I'm like, no more of that. But all the stuff I just described to you would not be possible without me, would not be possible first without my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because He's the foundation of how I do everything and how I find another way. And my mom, who's right there, thank you for all your support and encouraging me and inspiring me to be who I am. And last but certainly not least is all my friends, because see, none of this would be possible without the incredible support God has put around me. You guys, all you guys that are out there are like family to me. You guys inspire me, encourage me, and you guys help me find another way. And ever since I was a kid, I've not wanted my disability or my challenges or any other challenge I might have in life besides my disability, because my disability is just one challenge I face. I face regular life challenges like all of you do, but I did not want that to define who I was or what I was about, because I believe that God had a plan for me. God has a plan for me, and He had more for me than that, you know. And I'm very lucky because my mom raised me in such a way that my disability wasn't the focus of my life. Yes, when I had issues to deal with, we dealt with that. But guess what? After that was done, I went back to being a regular Sean, just like I normally would, which is hungry. But there's no cure for that. But we're all, every one of us in this room, every one of us are unfortunately going to face challenges in our life. None of us are immune to it, right? They're going to hit us at different points in our life. And maybe for you, maybe it's your job, maybe it's your finances, maybe you lost somebody, maybe it's a challenge with your health. Either you're going through something right now, or you're going to at some point in the near future. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that. I wish there was. I really do. But you know what? Even though we can't stop the challenges that we all face, and they're all looking different for every one of us, you know what we have 100% control over in our life? That is the way we choose to move through it and the way we react to it. You know, we have very little control over what happens to us in our life, but we have 100% control, like I said, of how we react to it. And one of my favorite authors is John C. Maxwell. He has this saying he says, and I liked it so much, I've adopted it into my own life. But he says, life is 10% what happened to you, 90% how you react to it, you know? And so, you know what else I found? Our life, our mind is like a magnifying glass. And you might be looking at me like, Sean, what in the world are you talking about? How is my mind like a magnifying glass? Well, I'm going to show you. Whatever you focus on in your life, you know how you use a magnifying glass to make things bigger when you want to see it? Well, whatever you focus your mind on in your life, guess what? That's what gets bigger. So if you focus on the harder, more challenging, more negative stuff that you don't like in your life, guess what? That's all you'll see. But if you can pull it back just a little bit, and you can start to see that you do have good in your life. And I'm not talking about maybe you don't get a raise, you don't get a new car every week, you don't get to go on vacation every week, because that stuff doesn't happen all the time for all of us. And if we waited for those kind of things to make a judgment on our life, we would have a lot of time in our life where we would be in a negative space about our life. But if we can remember, it's those small things that bring us joy, that make us happy. Maybe for you, it's going on a run or going on a nice bike ride, or getting a hug from your grandkid, or getting a hug from your spouse, or maybe listening to your favorite music up really loud. I don't know what it is for you. Every one of us are gonna have different things. But whatever that is for you, when you can focus on those little things will actually become big things. And it's those things that will help you see. Not everything is hard. Not everything in my life is hard. And those little things will help you look forward and manage the harder things that you deal with in your life. And you know what happens when we begin to find and acknowledge the good things that we do have in our life? Something really cool happens. You know what happens? We begin to develop something called gratitude. And gratitude is amazing, because the more you find it and the more you acknowledge it, the more it expands. So as I wrap up our time tonight, I appreciate your patience as I got the opportunity to share with you. But as I wrap up our time tonight, I'm gonna pose a question to you that I really want you to think about it as I talk about it. And that question is, how are you measuring your life, my friends? If someone were to come up to you right now and ask you to look back at the amount of life you lived so far and describe it, what would you say? What would your answer be? How would you describe it? Would you be one of those people that you say, Sean, I see a lot of pain, I see a lot of loss, I see a lot of tragedy, I see a lot of mistakes that I made or make, and I have a lot of disappointment? Would you be one of those people that say, well, if this hadn't happened, or if this would have worked out differently, my life would have been better, would have felt easier, wouldn't have felt so hard? Or will you be one of those people that when you look back at your life, you see the same kind of hard, challenging, and negative stuff that we all have in our life? You see that, you acknowledge that there too, but when you look at your life, you see something else. You know what you see? You see good, because you acknowledge with the hardship, with the pain, with the tragedy, there is good there. You acknowledge there is good there. and you can say to yourself, yes, I've had these hard things, I've had this happen, I've had that happen, but I see a lot of good there. So I hope when you look back at your life that your measuring cup for your life is full of more good than bad. Thank you so much, and God bless you.